Hello viewers, my name is Haneli Odan. I'm a subject advisor from the Buffalo City Metro District. Welcome to the Eastern Cape Department of Education Broadcasting Studio. Today's lesson is about CAT-PAT Phase 3. I will be covering two subtopics back to back for your full understanding. The first topic is the report, and then we will tackle the website. Let's start with the report. If you look at the PAT, it counts 25% of your final mark, compared to the end of year practical exam and theory exam. And your SPA that you've done in the rest of the year is 25 marks. So the PAT really weighs a lot, and it's really important that you try and do the best you possibly can do in your PAT. If we look at the mark distribution of Phase 3, you will see that there is 47 plus 3, that's 50% of the PAT is covered in Phase 3, and that's what I'm going to look at today. So the final PAT mark is a compulsory component of the final certification mark, the 100 for all candidates registered for computer applications technology. It's compulsory. You have to do the PAT to get a CAT mark. The absence of a PAT mark for CAT will mean that you will not receive a result for CAT at the end of grade 12. This could influence the publication of your final grade 12 results. So if we look at Phase 3, what do we do in Phase 3? We've got to draw up the findings, conclusions, and recommendations in our own words, and you've got to complete the word processing report and create a website to report on the process, the findings, and the recommendations. And then, of course, hand in Phase 3. But when you hand in Phase 3, you have to hand in a folder that's got your Phase 1, 2, and 3 in it. Okay, so there are three phases. The three phases are designed to ultimately combine to produce a word processing report and a website that contain your findings and conclusions. The development of the final report started in Term 1. So although there are three phases, you already started working on Phase 3 when you started in Term 1 with the report, with the Phase 1 report. So our topic, as you know, we've covered it a number of times already, is the ethical use of AI. Okay, the ethical use of AI. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And as I'm going to read there at the bottom, artificial intelligence has become more popular in our daily lives. And you've decided which sector you're going to focus on. Are you going to focus on education? Are you going to focus on business? So you've decided on your sector, and this is the final product telling us what the ethical use of AI in that sector is supposed to be, and giving us some tips and telling us more about the ethical use. So your task is to investigate how one of the given sectors, so I've just used education and training, could enhance the ethical use of the AI system on a local, provincial, or national level. So how could you enhance the ethical use of AI in that sector? Just an overview. There is a report and there is a website, and that is Phase 3. Okay, the report and the website. Note, written in your own words, except where information is correctly cited or acknowledged. You will be heavily penalized if you copy and paste directly from the internet, especially nowadays with AI. You have to make sure that you write the summary in your own words. Plagiarism is completely unacceptable. We're going to now look specifically at the report and what the requirements for the report is. So for the report, it's got to be a professional document. It's like you're writing a magazine or a book. You need to apply the word processing skills that you've learned in class to produce a professional document. Okay, the report, you copy the report from Phase 2, because in Phase 2 you had to add some findings to it. So you copy the report from Phase 2 to the relevant Phase 3 folder, And then you need to continue working on the report that you created in phase 1, edited in phase 2, and add your findings and solutions. It must be approximately 1,600 to 2,000 words. And then that's the content only, excluding the cover page, the table of contents, the reference and graphics, etc. So I'm just going to show you, I've made a little video here of our phases. So there you can see you should have a folder. And there is phase 3, or phase 2. In phase 2, we've got the Word document. We're now copying that Word document and we're moving it across to our phase 3 folder. So I'm going to just find, this is my pet folder. I am going to go to phase 3 and I'm going to move to the report. And inside the report, I will now paste this Word document. So that comes from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. And there we've got our Word report, and you've already done quite a bit in it, so we're just going to finish it off. Okay, so if we move on now, what are the requirements? And it's so easy to get these marks. They state exactly what needs to be added to the report. It needs to, as a guide, 6 to 8 pages long. And it's got to have a cover page. It's got to have an introduction, a discussion and analysis section, the findings and conclusions, and you must have any appendixes that are needed should be added. Remember, once again, your own words, except where information is cited. So just to give you a broad view of the report, what it looks like, there we go. There's the cover page. We have got an introduction, as I'm demonstrating there. If I move down, that is the findings, or the body of the document. We have the findings included, okay? And the findings are the ones you did in Excel and Access. So that's mainly, and they've given us the breakdown of what we have in this PET. If we look at the cover page, it's even stated exactly what needs to be on the cover page. You should have added a cover page in phase 1 already. So just make sure that it is professional looking and that you're using the appropriate content controls. And we're going to look at what content controls are. You need your name and surname. It must appear on the PET cover page, the name of your school, the subject name, and the PET topic that you have chosen. And then you're going to add a meaningful abstract. So you need to know how to add an abstract if you've chosen a cover page that doesn't have an abstract on, in the suitable content control. So that would be an abstract content control. And I'm going to show you how to add it if it's not on your cover page. The abstract is a brief summary, 3 to 4 lines is a guide of the contents of the report. The reader can at a glance know whether or not they want to read your report, the full report. Note the abstract is not an introduction. It's like just a brief summary. It's not an introduction. It's like an overview of what you've researched. And the tip is you are advised to recheck your abstract after you've completed the report. So we're just going to look at the cover page. There you can see name at the bottom, the grade, the school's name, okay, the topic that you've chosen, all of that should be, and you see the content controls, there's an abstract content control. So when I click on it, it says abstract. Okay. So the cover page, we're looking now at what marks are you getting for the cover page. So there's your first 4 marks. There are basically 20 sets of marks. So if you look at the numbering, this is number 1. There are just 20 things you have to do to get 4 marks. Okay, so you must use the appropriate content controls to display the information. So of course, you must know that you must click in a content control and add the text, the information there. The text should be typed using appropriate font sizes. Okay, so you don't want tiny font on a cover page. It must be easy to read, easy to see. This should be only, this should be the only page with a border. So if you decide to put a border around, it may only be on the cover page. And avoid arty borders and backgrounds. You're not getting marks for it. So don't go add extra arty things that do not look professional. And if a picture is used, the picture should be appropriate to the topic that you've chosen. So there you can see easily. Cover page added, appropriate content controls used, your name and surname is there, the school's name, the topic, meaningful abstract. Go read the abstract after you've written it to see if it is a brief summary. And that's it, your first 4 marks guaranteed. So let's look at this, the abstract. So I'm just showing you, you go to quick parts, document property, then there's abstract, and that's how you'll click and drag an abstract. So there are lots of other quick parts you can add. Content controls if you need more content controls on your cover page. So then we move on to the headings. Okay, also very easy. Suitable headings must appear in the sections, and the categories created in phase 1 now become headings. You'll remember in phase 1 you had 3 categories. Those 3 categories that you chose now become main headings, and under each of those categories you will have questions. These questions also have to be converted into headings. Because remember, in a book or a magazine, you're not going to have your paragraphs starting with questions. They start with headings. So your questions are now converted to headings. And they also guide us on what headings we should have in the document. So you'll see there's the introduction heading. Okay, and this learner created her own styles. She's even gone and she's got a heading style 1, a heading style 2, heading style 3, and she's applied it to the different headings. So she's got her main 3 categories, and then those are questions that I'm showing you now. They were questions, and they've now been converted to headings. Okay, so next set of marks, 4 marks. Okay, the font used should be easy to read. The font size should be between 12 and 18. Ensure that the heading stands out clearly from the other text. If you've chosen heading styles, your headings are going to stand out, and they're going to be a larger font because your styles, and you don't have to create your own styles. You can just use heading style 1 or 2. Ensure that the headings stand out, I've said, and use heading styles where appropriate to ensure that the headings are formatted in a consistent way. So if you've decided heading style 1 is your style, you're not going to create your own style, you must just make sure you use that heading style 1 for all your main headings, heading style 2 for your subheadings. And that is exactly what we've read at the top in the rubric, 4 marks, easy to get. Okay, move on to the next 4 marks, the automatic table of contents and the table of figures. Decide on the style you're going to use for the heading, so whether it's heading style 1, which one or whether you're going to create your own one. Automatically generated table of contents and a table of figures. Those are the things we need to add, a table of contents and a table of figures. And remember to update. So once you've created your Word document, right at the end, before you submit it, go back to these tables of content, table of figures, which are linked to headings and items in your PAT, and just update them, because the page numbers may have moved as you've added extra content, and now the page numbers are wrong on those tables of content at the beginning. So also, if you've used styles, tables of contents, very easy. Okay, you should we've done that since grade 10. Should be able to put it in, update the field, update the entire table right at the end. And you can see there is a table of content, and just below that there was a table of figures and a table of tables. Okay, so next 4 marks. Your report, the technical aspects of it, you've got an updated, so that's why I said make sure you go update it before you submit it. Updated automatic table of contents. You've got other tables, tables of figures, and appendixes are correctly inserted in any way, and then you've got hyperlinks or bookmarks or cross-referencing other than the table of contents, and you've used appropriate and correct navigation within the report. So if there's a hyperlink and you click on the link, it must open the correct thing that you want it to open, and the hyperlinks to external data and information, for example the spreadsheet or the database, must be appropriate and work. So yes, you've got an updated table of contents, you've got other tables, and then they talk about hyperlinks. So we're just going to look at exactly what are they saying there, what is expected. So you can see if I want to reference, for example, a table, I've got to insert a caption. You can't create a table of tables if you don't add captions to it, or a table of figures. So that's what I'm demonstrating here. You can see I'm adding a table of figures to that table so that I eventually can create a table of figures. If you don't add a caption, you can't add a table of figures. Okay, so that is important. Same with your images. If you add an image, you must make sure that you add a caption. And you can see here, I can choose figures or I can choose tables from the options that are available. Okay, if I'm doing a table, I can choose tables. If I'm choose figures, I can choose figures from the caption label list. Okay, and from there it's very easy. We just click on insert the table of tables. And let me just look at the other video. I've got another video here for you as well, where I'm showing you, remember there was a mark for link to external documents. So what you should do is like have a hyperlink to your spreadsheet, a hyperlink to your database, and a hyperlink maybe to the questionnaire. But please make sure that it's clearly indicated. And maybe the best place for that would be in the findings section so that they can see. You can see there it is. I've inserted a link. I'm now going to a current folder. I'm choosing the document. And yeah, so that is now hyperlinked to a place in the folder, or another document at least. So the introduction. We move on to the introduction. Write your introduction. And what is in an introduction? An introduction is an overview and focus of the original problem. And it states the focus and purpose of your investigation and points out which aspects you investigated. So make sure you do not add any additional unnecessary information. It's always important that when you've written something like an introduction, that you read it aloud, that you see, does it make sense? Is it an overview of the focus? And of course, the focus would be the sector or the category that you've chosen. And then the tip, adapt your task definition and focus question when compiling your introduction. So you shouldn't have a task definition or a focus question in the final report. Use the content of the task definition and the focus question to help you to create this introduction. And we're going to just look at, there we go. We move on. So the next thing would be our introduction. And you can see that is in the, it's not the task definition. It doesn't say, who is this for? What am I going to do? If there are unnecessary things there that come from your task definition, that says, I researched, and you'll see, considering the PAT requirements, a survey and a questionnaire was done. That's wrong. You shouldn't be mentioning that a survey and a questionnaire was done. That was the task definition. That is not the introduction. Part of the task definition can be used, but that part there at the bottom is not correct at all. Okay, you're not going to say who your target audience is when you write a book. Okay, you're going to just have an introduction. So we move on. The 4 marks that you'll get for your introduction. It's a clear overview and focus of the problem given, the purpose of the investigation, and a clear focus in terms of which aspects were investigated, and no unnecessary additional. So that is the mark a lot of people lose, because they still have the focus question there, and they still have information about that task definition, who am I going to show it to, and what process I'm going to follow, and then they lose that last mark. Okay, so paragraph formatting. Use appropriate and consistent line and paragraph spacing throughout. Ensure that there's no empty paragraphs, and ensure that all text in the body is left aligned. 4 marks, and we're just going to look at what is needed first. Okay, so I always put the show hide on, and you can see there that is an empty paragraph. If you've got an enter sign between 2 paragraphs, that is the sign that there is supposed to be a paragraph, but it's empty, there's nothing in front of it. You are in grade 12. You should be able to go to paragraph spacing and put a spacing after. So you shouldn't be entering between paragraphs. And that is where we talk about the appropriate line and paragraph spacing, that no empty paragraphs is talking about that, those extra enters you have. If you want to go onto a new page, you press Control Enter. You put in a page break. You don't enter onto the new page. Okay, you won't get your marks if you do that first mark. Consistent formatting, your font should be the same throughout. Your heading style should be the same throughout. And your headings stand out from the body. That mark is so easy. And all body text is left aligned. Please be very careful. I see a lot of learners that center things. You do not center in your pattern. Okay, it's really not professional to center paragraphs, even your headings. Keep everything to the left, and you know that you will get your marks. Okay, your page layout. So we're going to just look at these two videos quickly, and then we will talk about the page layout. Do you see there I'm showing you the page numbering? This is something a grade 12 should be able to do. It must be proper numbering, not numbers that you type in. You must go to page numbering in your header and footer, and you choose a numbering style there. So that is the one thing that you're going to get marks for in your layout. And if we move down there, you can see a page break. It's important that you put page breaks in. And when we put the show hide on, as I'm demonstrating there, you can see the page breaks. So those aren't things we'll see normally when it prints. You must have bullets. Okay. So when you do little lists, please make sure that you make use of bullets. And I'm scrolling down to just see what else we've got. There we go. I have cited. You have citations. You have labels. So all those professional things that you've been taught in CAT. So your word processing functions, use word processing functions to add page numbers. Use page section breaks, okay, page breaks or section breaks to start new page sections or appendixes. Use bullets and numbering where appropriate, okay, to enhance readability. Use sufficient white space, so don't push everything into the top of the page and then you've got a big blank place at the bottom of the page. Tables and graphs and other graphics should have appropriate captions. And there we go. Same thing. Page numbering, headers and footers, numbering set for the different sections. Okay, so have your different sections, have different numbering styles for the different sections. Page breaks and the section breaks. So that's important that you add this. You can't do different page numbering for different sections if you don't have section breaks. So that's why it's important that you do page breaks and section breaks. And the database and all the information and data and graphics, tables, graphs, charts, all of that relevant to your investigation can now go into the body of this document. And then hyperlinks, we've spoken about them. I'm not going to look at that again. We'll show you an example of that. Hyperlinks to external data. So if we come back to analysis and discussion, so this is the body of the Word document, okay? You must be a font that's professional, easy to read. You should not use more than 2 fonts, okay? It's not a birthday card, it's a formal report. Use appropriate word spacing, so the spaces between the words should not be more than 2. The font size should not be larger than 12. Remember, it's smaller than headings. Ensure that different paragraphs are clearly distinguished, so you have to have that setting space after paragraphs. Use appropriate word processing principles and techniques to create white space and enhance readability. And then ensure that all body text is formatted in a consistent way. And body text should be distinguished from headings. It's a repetition of the same thing. Body text should be left aligned. Okay, so we're going to look now. So now that's the main heading. Remember you had those 3 main headings with the questions below them? So that's what you're going to do now. You've done this in term 1. You're just converting those headings, those questions into headings, and you make it a neat paragraph, and you can have images in these paragraphs as well. So that's the body, the main thing. There I've got a citation. It's important that you add citations. Okay, so that is the findings that we do here. Analysis and discussion, which is mainly done in term 1 already. It's just now converting it into paragraphs with headings. So you'll see that only relevant appropriate data is used. Relevant information questions are grouped together. This you should already have done under the headings. Information is logically sequenced, which it should be already, and all graphics are relevant. So you'll have pictures that talk to your topic. Okay, easy 4 marks. The findings. The findings you've already done as well, because you did this in term 2 when you did the Word and the Excel and the Access. So I'm going to show you the video first here, or the demonstrate what it looks like. So there is the findings, and you'll see this is the data that I captured in Excel that was converted to a graph. It's important that you explain to us what you see in that graph. So below the graph or above the graph, whichever method you're using, you must explain to us what you have discovered, what you see by looking at the graph on the research that you've done. Remember the surveys that you did. You can also use the queries and information from the reports that you did in Access in your findings. But you should have at least 3 findings. And you've got to answer that answers the focus question, that one, that bullet that says supported by relevant appropriate data information. It means you must tell us what you see, show us the picture, the graph or the report, and a meaningful explanation. Okay, you must be able to use the information obtained from these formulas, functions, and graphs as findings or partial findings and conclusions in your final report. And you must be able to use information obtained from the queries as findings or conclusions. So that's what we're saying. This comes from phase 2. And in phase 2 already, we told you that you've got to have these graphs that you're going to use for findings. That's the mark distribution. You'll see 3 appropriate claims. All claims are supported by relevant appropriate data or information. So there's going to be a picture or a graph, and you're going to write something about it. Must be meaningful. Once you've written it, read through it to make sure it makes sense. And the findings and recommendations include some new thoughtful ideas. So it's interesting, it's your research. Nobody's discovered what you've discovered because you worked with a special group of people. So that's the thoughtful ideas, new ideas that you've got there. This is a very important part of our PAT, and that's the referencing. You must use an automatic generated reference list. So that's the normal bibliography that you get in Word, and ensure that all sources used are referenced clearly. So you use the feature that Word has of bibliographies. All the information you need should be found in the summary documents in phase 1 and 2. And any graphics that you've added should be referenced. Automatic appropriate captions must be inserted. And then make sure that you do not plagiarize. And I've mentioned that before. And use citations. Okay, so let's look at an example of a bibliography. There we go. So we must add, and you must remember to update it, just like you'll update your table of contents. And then we also have the appendixes right at the end of the document. When we finish with our report, we make sure that we have the appendixes as well. Okay, and the mark allocation. So we add any appendixes that are needed to our document as well. And then let's look at the mark allocation. All sources are clearly and appropriately acknowledged. This is your bibliography. Graphics from other sources are clearly and appropriately acknowledged. Citations are present, and a minimum of 3 citations. It's very difficult for the teacher to see where these citations are. So I suggest that you indicate on your rubric on which page numbers you've done the citations. And then just the technical aspects of the report. There's automatic bibliography, automatic appropriate captions, automatic table of figures, and supporting documents added as part of the document. Your appendixes, that's appendixes at the bottom, that they're clearly distinguishable. You can even turn the pages with appendixes so that they are landscape if the rest are portrait. And then the final check. Okay, the final check, general formatting and editing. Keep it simple. This is not an art or a design competition. And check your spelling. Make sure that there are no grammar and spelling mistakes in your document before you submit your report. Once you've completed the report, do a final check in terms of the formatting and referencing, and remember to update the tables of content and figures. Formulating your conclusion. So we're nearing the end now. You must have a meaningful conclusion. It must address the original statement, okay, in light of the evidence presented, and the conclusion should not contain new information other than what you've researched. So if we look at the conclusion, we're now at the end of the report. There is the conclusion. That conclusion is too short, okay, so make sure that you write a conclusion that is meaningful and that it states what you've researched and what your findings were. Okay, and you can go and research on AI or on Google what is a good conclusion to a document. Okay, and that's the conclusion, the 4 marks for the conclusion. We are now finished with the report. You can see the report is 48 marks. It's the conclusion that is present. The conclusion is drawn from information presented in the report. Conclusion is meaningful and logical, and the conclusion is relevant to the focus question in phase 1. This is the mark distribution for the conclusion. You can see straightforward conclusion present, conclusion drawn from information presented. A conclusion is meaningful and logic. That means read through it, it must make sense, and the conclusion is relevant to the focus question. So remember to mention your focus question in the conclusion. Okay, we have come to the end of our lesson. You can leave your questions on the comments. Don't forget to leave the name of your school, so we give shout outs. Please share, recommend, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, and see you on our next lesson. Bye.